So, welcome everyone to another episode of Tapping In, where we tap into the wisdom and experience of successful leaders. Today, we have Paul Carney with us from ISHTOT, which is an acronym for I Should Have Thought of That. Love it. Thank you, Paul, for joining us today. Paul is an absolute genius when it comes to AI, and I have loved getting to know more about him and about his journey in his career. So let's start with that. Paul, share with us what got you into this career that you have right now.
So thank you, Gwen. Yeah, it's awesome to be with you. My career is one of those. Someone the other day posted on LinkedIn this career map where everyone thinks it's just a ladder as you climb a hill. And then this other guy had this one that was all dotted all around. I'm like, yeah, mine looks even more twisted than that. Because I started as a high school math teacher out of college, wrote my first computer program and jumped into computers, and then got landed in HR, which is how I became the chief human resource officer for a large company. So a lot of different things, but I'm a techie by root, and started that company in 1997. That ISHTOT company started in 1997 because in late 92, I saw the first NCSA Mosaic browser, this browser concept that became Netscape Navigator back later on, which doesn't exist anymore, of course. But I saw that browser and said, this is going to change the way we do business, and jumped in and built my first company, built a website, sold it, built another one with some friends. We sold that to techies.com in 1999. And then the last thing I built was actually sold product lines, was actually sold in 2019. So then when I saw a couple of years ago this AI called ChatGPT come along, it was the same. In fact, my wife said, I haven't seen this, Paul, in 25 years, because there I am going, this is going to change the world again. So that's what's got me on my current journey and why I'm doing so much with AI.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love how you are on the edge of things. Like you see something coming up and you kind of jump in on it and say, how can I be a part of that? How can I contribute? What can I learn? And
Yeah,
so
it's part of
that's
my
fantastic.
Myers-Briggs personality style is an ENTP. So we're the big picture, thinkers and the ones that are out there. Now that's got its good side and it's got its tough side. My wife, who's an awesome rock, she's the one constantly pulling me back down to the ground every once in a while saying, that's nice, but let's get back to reality. So you need that balance. And luckily I've got that balance in life. But that's true of any leader, any entrepreneur, any CEO. You could have these big, great ideas, but you got to have the people around you that help you ground it or take the idea and put it in action. I will tell you the first thing, I'm not a great project manager. I surround myself with people that love tasks and love managing tasks. That's not my world.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. So that's another good tip that you can bring out or that we can talk about is finding the people who are on your team and
Yes.
and resourcing yourself with people on your team that don't do what you do and are excelling in areas that you do not excel in. And so that's wonderful. So how did you pick people to be on your team?
So, it's funny too, long before the concept of inclusive and bringing diverse thoughts and ideas, many of us were practicing that already. I am
Mhm.
one of those, and it's hard. It's really hard to do to get people on your team. It's easy to find people that complement your work styles and you give the project task people and this. What's really hard is to find people that don't necessarily believe the way you do. Because they're gonna, if you've got them on your team, and I've always built this, I've built a relationship of trust with all of my people that work with me, that they can challenge me, and I'm not gonna, there's no retribution. I'm not gonna, bring it up later and say, well, no, I want to hear that. I mean, the more open you are to hearing those other ideas, it helps you form your ideas better. In fact, again, the ENTP style, I'm one of those. Sometimes it'll take the opposite side of an argument that I believe in because I'm trying to figure it out better or reinforce what maybe I'm thinking. It's, again, you got to think about it as a learning process. So it is hard, though, to get people on your team or around you who will challenge your thoughts and not just accept it. Sometimes it hits, you're like, you want to just, get defensive and but you got to stop yourself. It's that emotional intelligence that makes you self-aware that you're becoming defensive, stop it, and then say, all right, how can we all improve from this? And then you start the conversation. It's back to having that conversation. But yeah, I have done that consistently throughout my life. One cool thing about that is when I've left some companies, I had multiple people follow me. I've had multiple people follow me multiple times. So I look
Oh,
back at that
wow.
saying, okay, I must have been doing something right if these people are willing to follow me into new situations, new organizations, and new challenges.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I love the fact that you pointed out getting people on your team who are not just yes men or yes women.
Mhm.
I don't like that term, but I couldn't think of anything else. But just who just conform to whatever you want to do
Right.
and don't offer new ideas or contrary ideas or conflicting opinions. So
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
mean, that's
really
growth.
important.
Yep.
Yeah. I think a lot of us just tend to naturally get a group of people who like our ideas and
Right.
think we're headed in a good place and aren't really open to the idea of looking that maybe our idea may not be 100% awesome. Maybe there's some things that need to be fleshed out in a different or better way. So, yeah, that's great that you've surrounded yourself with people like that. So, maybe
Yeah,
that's
it's
really good
easy.
trip.
It's a comfort. That's why it's easier for us to do. It's comfortable. You got to break out of that. And I heard a speaker on Monday, a good friend of mine that was spoke at a conference, Thomas Creek, about how to do hard better. And he talks about hacking your mind, hacking the hardware and the software of your brain to that growth mindset concept. And I love it. That's what I've lived. And it's exactly what you got to do. It's hard though. And there's going to be times,
Right.
and trust me, there are times, and as an entrepreneur, I'm tired, I'm beat down. There are those days that I just look at, especially what I'm doing with Perpetta with the AI now, and go, nobody wants this. This isn't going to do anything, stuff. But then you get past that day, that perseverance, you get past it and say, the next day you wake up and go, all right, I'm ready to go again. I've got this. We're going to make this happen. And then you get that what's really great is when you get that comment. Had it happen this week, someone reached out to me and said, you talked about AI in real words. I understand it now. I went and played with it a bit more and I've changed the way I use the tools. I'm like, yes. So that's that one thing. It just reinflates you. You're like, all right, I'm ready to go. I can do this until the next
Yes.
deflation occurs.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, speaking of AI, tell us about your journey with AI because that is how I kind of connected with you. And I think what you're doing and sharing on LinkedIn is fascinating. So, tell me your journey with AI and what you're actually doing and why it's so important.
So yeah, it's like I said, 2 years ago when OpenAI created this little thing called ChatGPT. It was 2 years ago this month that they just dropped this thing onto the world. No fanfare, no announcements. I went out and saw it and started playing with it, going, "Oh, that's pretty cool, pretty cool." But I'm the type who challenges it. I started pushing it to the edge, going, but when I looked at it and seeing the results it was giving me, the assumptions it was making, and the things it was telling me that I was trying to do. And I'm like, I never even said that's what I was trying to do, but it came up with that. That started me getting my mind going, wow, where is this coming from? How's this? And then how can I apply this and use it for this, this, and this, and this? And that's what got me really on a path. A year ago, I created my speeches, and I've spoken to over 3,000 people this year, 1,200 alone at the National SHRM Conference, Society of Human Resource Management.
Mhm.
1,200 showed up to they had to move my room to the ballroom because too many people were signing up. But one of the things I've learned over the past 6 or 7 months is it comes down to the prompt. No matter what tool you're using, how you talk with it is going to make a huge difference in how you get back. If you use generic questions, you're going to get generic answers. Use structure. I always talk about verbose versus structured prompts. Verbose is just narrative. The AI is trying to figure out what you want, but if you structure it and say, I want you to assume this role, here's the request, here's some instructions, it gets better at giving you the results. So, it's been a great journey. I call it sometimes my emotional journey. Sometimes I
Mhm.
get caught up thinking I'm haranguing it when it's not doing what I want, and I keep bugging it. And I say to myself, it doesn't care. It's a computer. It's not like a human. If they were, I was bugging them. It's non-judgmental. I can ask it the same stupid question day in and day out, and it gives me an answer. Whereas, as if I called my friend and asked that same question every day, by the third day, they're probably going to say something not so nice to me. But then, why do you keep calling me about this? But AI doesn't do that. It's got so many things. Now, it's not perfect. And that's the other part too, is I find that there are some people who try to use it for things it's not really good at. It's not good at reasoning. It may think it is, or it tells you it is. It's not really good at that. Our brains are still the reasoning power. We are the ones. And that's why I like to use augmented intelligence instead of artificial, because it really is about how you and AI add value, not either of you independently, but how you can combine the two and create so much more value.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. So, you mentioned earlier when we were just chatting by ourselves, we were talking about people being afraid of AI, people just taking AI and copying it, pasting it, and not making it authentic. Tell me how you guide yourself through that and how you share that with others when you're talking to them.
Sure, and you're right. And there are still tons of people that are fearful of it. I mean, one of my slides I have is who's afraid of big bad Gen AI, and people. I'm even raising my hand saying you need to be because you need to continue. It changes fast, and we got to understand this. It's so new. But one of the things I really like to focus on with people is, and I say this all the time, I use AI every day. I don't apologize for it. It's not cheating. It's like talking to a very smart set of assistants. So when you start to get people, they're like, yeah, I've had people say, thank you for telling me that because I feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. And I say the people that are making you feel guilty using it don't understand it. They're the ones who really don't understand what it can do. And once you see the power of what you can leverage, it is awesome. But here's the key. No matter how you use it, whatever tool you use, it comes down to keeping a human in the loop, keeping you in the loop, that augmented intelligence concept. And really, as I say this quite quickly, use AI to be a better you, not another you. You've got to keep that authenticity because if you just copy and paste it, that's not you, that's AI. But if you take it, modify it, insert your stories, change some of the words or flip it around, then it's you in a better sense.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. How do you see AI in helping people maybe improve their business processes or their sales or different things like that? What do you see the place or purpose of AI in something like that?
Sure. So, and that's the thing is, again, understanding what it's really good at. It's good at creativity. It's good at brainstorming ideas, coming concepts. You and I talked about that a little earlier about, getting some concepts and things and then taking it and riffing it on your own. That's awesome. It's also good at processing. Hey, I do this a lot. I get a lot of emails and there'll be a really long email. One time there was a guy who was talking about a topic and I'm reading it going, I don't quite get what he's saying. I took it, gave it to AI and say, summarize this in a way that I would understand. And it nailed it. I'm like, now I see what the guy's saying. So, summarizing and analyzing is good. But the other part is the process. You mentioned the process piece. There are
Mm.
ways you can use AI. So say you're a business development person who's working and gathering sales. You might have a CRM, a customer relationship management system, but I can, in about a 15-line script, I can turn AI into an accountability manager for you, an accountability coach that every morning you come in and say, good morning. It comes back, maybe gives you some inspirational thought. Then it asks you, what have you done? And you give, oh, with this customer, da 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 da. And then it summarizes and shows you, because you've already told it what its goals are. And then you say goodbye. Next morning, you come in and say, good morning, gives you a little inspirational quote because you've told it to do this. And the next thing it knows, it asks you, and then you can say, summarize at the end of the month, where am I? Where am I with my goals? Suggest things I need to do. You've already told it. It's telling you, here are things you need to work on next. Suddenly, you've got a coach that's just managing for you. And people,
Oh, wow.
yeah, people haven't thought, and that's not, there's this concept of agents and people are building these agents. You don't even need that. You can just do it in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini. You can create a conversation that tells it, I'm going to say this to you, you're going to do this, and here's our interaction every day, every week, whatever you want.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Isn't that
Maybe I'll
cool?
be more organized if I started using that.
You can have a task manager. Remember what I told you about tasks before? You can have a task manager one that says, here are the 14 things I need to accomplish this month. And then it asks you, what have you done? I did this, I did this. And it will say, what about this one? What are you doing about this? Or you need to do this today. So it's going to help you. And you can program it to say, keep on top of me to remind me to get to the end of that goal by whatever period it is. And it will do it.
Yeah, I can see that helping for some people. That would totally not work for me because I have such a big task manager in my head right now that I have to tell it to be quiet so I
There
can
you
be
go.
creative and resourceful. Otherwise, it's just very driven.
So instead, your accountability coach would be saying, "So Gwen, what thoughts? Here's a topic. Let's talk about this topic." Like, say the more of
Exactly.
the creative side to get you out of the tasks for a minute. Say, "All
Yeah,
right, look at the
that's a
future."
good idea. Yeah, yeah, I like that. And I think probably when I think about mental health, you could set that up to remind you to practice self-care. And what have you done in your daily protocol today to be your optimal self? Like that would be really awesome. Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
I
Okay, now I'm
wellness
gonna go
coach,
play
a
some more.
fitness coach. I mean, I've built little scripts, and they're not very hard scripts. They're just scripts that you can take and kind of copy and change the topic and stuff. But and again, the better instruction you give it, the more you tell it how much coaching you want, the better it gets.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So is this going to replace humans in your life? Like, are you going to replace
It will
humans?
replace certain functions, but I think it will also augment. I think there's three things. It will replace certain things. I think it'll augment others, and it's going to create a whole new set of things you haven't even thought of. Or, I prompt people in my speeches to look at taxi cabs. When GPS came along, taxi cabs could keep track of their taxis, right? So they knew where all their taxis were. When the smartphone came along, they missed the opportunity to create the Uber and Lyft. They could have created ride share hailing apps that you call their taxi, but they didn't. They stuck in their mode because they said, no, this is what we do. No, you failed to understand where the world went. And I challenge people to do the same thing with AI. You can use it for efficiency, for processes and purposes, but think about the ways we're not even considering yet. What else can it do that it goes beyond what I call the normal? That's the stuff that's going to be fun. So on the human side, it's going to replace those menial tasks, those processing, the analysts. You're still going to need people though to know how to use it and then evaluate the response, because it's not always accurate, it's not always perfect. That's where the humans, and we're not perfect either, but it's going to change the way we work. Just like, back in the day, I'm old enough to remember when I worked for the IT department at a college. The IT director had a secretary and she typed he brought her written notes and she typed
Right.
memos and then they got distributed to everybody. That person doesn't really exist anymore because the IT director today would just type his own memo. Now, you might have somebody review it and send it out, but they're going to type it. So that role, the whole concept of a secretary or assistant, again, people still have them for assistants to manage tasks and schedules, but the concept of what they do is very different today. And that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's exciting. And you mentioned some people are afraid of it. And that's what I run into from time to time. And questioning just how do we use AI ethically and all of that. So I think that's really important. I know we don't have time to go through all of that, but whenever we approach a new process or new technology, there's always a learning curve, there's always challenges. And I can tell you one of the things that I have appreciated about you as I've gotten to know you a little bit is that you go headfirst into those instead of sitting back and just like, I don't know, this is too scary for me. And it's probably good that we have people like that in our lives who just like hold back, right? Who offer that yin yang kind of experience for us. But yeah, I love the fact that you go head first and you're like, I am fearless with this and I am going to challenge it and work it and see what I can do with it instead of tiptoeing in. So we need the tiptoers and we need the divers. And I love how you dive into things. So that's
Yeah,
really
and so it's funny too because at the beginning of the year when I started doing these speeches, I was way out ahead of especially HR people. I realized after the first couple of speeches, I had to pull my content way back. I'm too far ahead. I was talking about all this stuff. I had to, and that's when it came down to, all right, I'm just going to focus on prompts because they really need to know how to talk. You mentioned earlier, I've got that LinkedIn prompt a day that I put a prompt out there every single day, variety of topics. I started that on April 1st. When I told my wife I was going to do it, she's like, "You're going to put a prompt every day?" I said, "Yes," because my goal is one of those topics is going to interest you. Someone, if
Mhm.
you, and I always challenge, if you haven't found, I've done it, 170 times now, they're all different topics. If you can't find one topic that excites you to go take it and play with AI and see the cool things it can do, then tell me and I'll interview you and come up with one and do it for you. But the goal of that is really just to help people say the why. Why do I need to use it? How am I going to use it? And once you discover that it can do some cool things related to stuff you're interested in, that's the part. So that's my mission is even though I'm on the front edge, I bring myself back though and say, but I want to bring people along. I don't want to leave them behind. My goal is to say, I'm going to guide you down the path and eventually you'll get there. But minimalist wardrobe was one of the most popular posts I did. That was a
Oh,
weekend post.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how to create a minimalist wardrobe. I got so many comments on that one, and it's like, okay, yeah, all right. I mean, I don't do that myself, but the prompt, people loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I think you targeted into people's desire for simplicity and ease. Yeah.
Yes.
And I did read that one too.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, I read probably at least one a week and
Yeah.
play
And you
around.
go back and look at the archives. One of these days, I've actually started working on, I'm going to actually start to digest them, and probably, I don't know if it's going to be a weekly, probably a monthly, and just digest them into an ebook and then put it out there and say, great. So if you've missed any, here they are, because I've got them
Right,
all captured.
right, yeah. Or just access on some server, not
True.
necessarily an ebook, but people
Yep.
can just pay to access that. That would
Yep.
be a good, what do we call, continuity income for you. So
Correct. Correct.
yeah, I can hook you up with someone who has a lot of great ideas around that. So I'll do
All
that.
right.
And
Love it.
anyway, well, I so appreciate you sharing all of this with us today. You're just a delightful person, and I love it when I run across people who are doing good work and are also good people. And so
Thank you.
I really appreciate all that you've offered for us today. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us for another episode of Tapping In. And I hope you'll join us again soon. And thank you. And we will be back.